Thank you for this day of life. Father, thank you for this country that we live in and this tribe that we serve and these people that we work with. Father, there's much need in our land today. A recent loss in a family of friends and acquaintances, the Burns family. Pray, Father, that you'd give them comfort. Know that you know the answers we don't understand. And we look to you, Father, for comfort and grace and mercy. Thank you for this group that's met here this afternoon. Help us, Father, to make the right decisions for the landfill. Health is very important to us and our people. Father, I pray that you go with us now and forgive us. Help us make good decisions. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
See you, please. Roll call, please.
Curtis Snell.
Here.
Joe Crittenden.
Here.
Jody Fishinghawk. Here. Meredith Fraley. Here. Janelle Fulbright. Here. We have four.
Okay, we've met today for the landfill environmental study. And I guess we would call Meredith Fraley the speaker. What will we do?
In order to comply with the resolution that was passed at our last tribal council meeting, which I learned today will be vetoed by the chief. That's the purpose of being here, is to comply with that resolution. Chad did call me today and said he thought that I should know, and I told him I would share it with you all, that he is going to veto that resolution. And where we go from there is up to us.
All right. And with that being said, what I would, what a resolution is a statement of will by the council. It has been a point of contention whether the chief has the ability to veto a resolution or not. I don't believe he has the ability, it's my opinion, he does not have the ability to veto a resolution. He can choose to ignore it, that's all well and good, but he does not have the ability to veto it. That being said, what the resolution calls for is for this council, or for the council to be involved in the creation of the RFP. And that the scope of work that to ensure a independent, comprehensive environmental study of the Adair County landfill. Now, I don't know the basis for the purported veto, but we have been in meetings together, all of us, in which it was what I thought a consensus for the desire for all parties to be involved in this, and specifically the Tribal Council to be involved in all aspects of creating the scope of work for the environmental study. I know Mr. Crittenden there, Jody was there for a little while, and several parties in this room were there. I know we want to get to the same stage, which is, number one, a comprehensive, independent environmental study. That has always been everyone's position. I don't know if the basis of the veto is going to be on semantics or not. I don't know. But as the council attorney, I believe it is important for the council to be involved for the reasons that the council represents the people of the districts, in particularly the districts that have the landfill and is downstream from the landfill. They have a compelling interest to be involved to make sure that there is a safe and clean environment down there. And then secondly, it is very important to Cherokee Nation businesses to have a benchmark of what the condition is at the landfill. When they begin operations, they're going to need to know what was done by the previous operator. and what the condition of the landfill is or was as left by the previous operator, ICI. So everyone has a very compelling interest to get this study done, and I'll just have to wait to see the detailed message to see what the reasoning is. But I say press on.
Yes, Mayor.
What Chad shared was that, and it is mainly semantics, that we can't begin work, C&E can't begin work until the environmental study is done. And consequently, it's costing us, I don't remember how much it was, each day that we delay operating the landfill. That, I'm assuming, is his basis. That's what he told me today. Thank you.
Mr. Tom Elkins, with you.
Just from our standpoint, from the environmental programs, I've looked over Dina's scope of work on this, and I really think this is something that we would agree with, that, you know, that's a good comprehensive approach to something like that. I think the word comprehensive is kind of dangerous. You know, if you say a comprehensive thing, you can hire an engineer that will say, well, that's not comprehensive. We should have went this, and we should have done this, and we should have done this. I think a reasonable study of this would be much more fitting for this. But I think what we have with the administration is that the resolution that was passed, and I have these concerns too, especially at the back of it where it talks about the last part of it, where part of that was stricken about remains closed, but then it has the language of current level. We signed an agreement with, as a permit, we as the Cherokee Nation, the Environmental Protection Commission, that C&B would finish these steps at these times. This resolution, maybe it is semantics, but it does appear that it could hinder that process. And if that hinders that, the commissioners were very clear. You, Tom, will issue notices of violation when they don't comply with these. My hands will be tied because I will be forced to do that.
Particularly what
I don't think the intention was to set them up to fail. But whether it's semantics or not, that may well be the case if this is followed, or at least what we believe to be the intention of that is followed.
In particular, what is the language in the resolution that you think holds up?
Well, and then I'm not completely in line with what the chief has, but what I've read out of that, the last further be it resolved, and maybe I think I have the correct version that was passed.
Can you find me that?
Yes, Joe.
Me? Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tom, and Mr. Chairman, this last paragraph seems to be causing some heartburn, and it did at full council the other night, and we changed some wording in it. I think, now I'm just talking for me, I think when I agreed to the wording here that it's current level of operation, I was referring to the acceptance of trash more than anything else. I mean, because I realized that,
Sludge or trash?
well,
They currently
whatever they were accepting.
They were accepting
You know,
sludge.
in this case, they were only accepting sludge.
Yeah.
And that's what I meant, was not to impede or hinder the acceptance of sludge or them doing our leachate water.
But would they be able to start accepting trash?
No, I mean, that was my intention, was we didn't accept trash. The only thing that we accepted during this time frame was the sludge. Now, I didn't spell it out, or I didn't, but that was my interpretation of what this meant right here. Not that anybody couldn't go down there and move dirt or build up a berm there at the leachate pond, or do some maintenance on the landfill. I mean, that wasn't what I was talking about. It was the trash issue.
Yeah, and in drafting that, and at the council's request, I would agree with your interpretation. Current level of operation at that time was that they were accepting still sludge, or still was taking the sludge out of the leachate pond. I don't think the term current level of operation would mean that would hinder any repairs or necessary improvements that are going to need to be made at the.
Well, supposing we were going to close the landfill, we would have to go ahead and make a dome or roof over it and do all these kind of things.
I mean, if it was the intent of the resolution to halt all activity at the landfill, it would have said that,
Yeah.
I expressed some concern yesterday with Jody and Joe about being able to order materials and start construction, which is going to be a large excavation effort at first. And I had the same concerns in a different way. I think yours is from a compliance standpoint. Mine is from a construction and development standpoint with regard to the language read literally. And so that was my concern yesterday when I talked to Jody and Joe about their intentions. So I shared concerns in a different aspect.
Yes, Tom.
I think if you don't have a good understanding of a landfill and how that works, it's a continuous construction project. So you don't look at things in a few weeks or things like that. You're looking at the long term and a continual process there. It really would halt them completely, because at a point they're going to have to figure, is it going to be closed or is it going to remain open? Well, if it's going to remain open, there's things that have to continually be done. And a comprehensive study like this, I mean, we haven't defined that yet. That may well, that could take many, 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 many months. If that's the case, they're not. I mean, I know from a practical standpoint, they're not going to be doing a whole lot of work out there after a little while. It won't happen. They can't, because they won't have the long-range knowledge that they're either going to be open or they're going to be closed. And if that's the intent of this, they're not going to be able to comply with what they've already agreed to in that permit. That won't happen.
Jody?
Okay, first of all, I think maybe you misunderstand. We talked at the landfill just the other day, and we all agreed that they could do the study at the same time they're expanding, because I think we all at this table know the landfill's going to be open again. Let's be honest about this, it's going to be open. So we know that when we start developing, it's going to be for the long term. Regardless of the study, I don't see you all developing for the short term, do you?
No, that's not our intention.
Yeah, let's be for real. So, I think we did work out something the other day that stated that we didn't mind the expansion going on while the study was being done. And we did agree to most of the stuff on the study. Didn't we sit down and agree to everything we wrote?
We agreed as individuals,
Yeah.
as two council people, but we don't have say of the
We
whole
don't have say
council
in it.
or Todd or the speaker. And that's why we said we need to get everybody together on the same page.
The cord, even the cord drilling that I was asking about, we even come up with the solution for that later when they drilled the methane, tunnels, holes, wells.
Mm-hmm.
They was going to take some of that to sample at a later date when they started doing that. It may not be, the first 6 or 8 months, but when they do it, they agreed to do it, Meredith. I mean, it was pretty, I thought we had everything pretty much fired out.
Yes, Todd. Todd's got a
I guess the
comment.
question I have is, and this might be a misconception that I had from talking with Brad Carson at that meeting that we were at. Does the CND let's put this resolution to the side right now, okay? CNB obviously wants and I use the term comprehensive because I think that is a term of art, that we should have a complete environmental study. I wouldn't agree with the word reasonable. I would say comprehensive. Now we can how detailed that is. Yeah, you're right. You could hire someone and say, oh well, you always should have said something else. But what comprehensive should be defined as is by members of CMD and in accordance with this resolution, everybody involved. Now, but to get to my question, when would CMD want to start accepting trash at that land site?
As soon as we can get the development done. We want to not only accept new waste, but as Tom suggested, we need to modify some things at the landfill and remediate things that are there right now, like the slope of the existing cell that was left by the previous operator. So not only do we need to open to accept waste that we are losing money on currently as the nation, but we need to re-slope and perform construction there to change some of those items that are not up to our standards, I would say.
When would, I mean, well, so you would want to start accepting trash before an environmental study was complete, yes?
I personally, from CMB's perspective, we want to get this testing done as quickly as possible.
Yeah, because you got to establish a benchmark, because this is going to be in litigation.
Yes, and we had planned on doing that in a couple of different ways, and this being one of them. We had some other ideas in mind that Brad can speak to as the head of CMB at a later date, but this was one of the things that we had planned to do already. And we had talked to Joe and Jody about their thoughts on that previously. So regardless of whether the resolution is vetoed or not, CMB intends to move forward with this effort. So there's no question, and I still would like feedback from everyone on your thoughts and feelings on this.
Yes, Mary.
We can move forward under this
With an
law,
independent
resolution.
Yeah, with the idea of the RFP and the independent testing that has been suggested by a firm that is not representative of the nation or CMB or has done previous business with us. And in fact, I already spoke to our current testing company and told them that is our intention to do that. And they have no problem with that.
Yeah, because you're going to have, you know, and that was what was discussed in our previous meeting, was that, you know, that is almost an imperative business practice that CMB has to do, because, like I said, this is going to end up in litigation, and you're going to have to, you know, bring this independent body in that have the credibility of being independent. So when they testify, they won't, you know, have any aura of favoritism towards Cherokee Nation. So I really don't understand the consternation then of the chief or the administration in this with this resolution then, because we all want to get to the same place now. You know, but okay, I'll surrender the floor to
Jody, you got a floor?
I've got a question since you all are both lawyers here to help us out here. Like he said, at one point in time, Joe and I, especially, may be called into court over this study. And when they sit there and they say, do you feel, as a counselor from Adair County and on the tribal council, that this study was as complete and comprehensive, and do you have faith in it? My question is, does the administration, do you all want me and Joe to say, yes, we have faith in it, and we felt good about it continuing on? I can see what you're saying now, why it puts, I'm trying to sort some of this out in my head.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I mean, what you want to be able to do is, and I'm kind of almost taking this as a litigation standpoint, you know, is that you want to have all parties, all branches of your government on board with this, and that's why you would want obviously the elected representatives of the districts that have this landfill and are downstream on board in this and involved in the creation of the RFP or the scope of work, so that someday that they would be able to testify that, you know, well, you know, you were involved from day one on this and every step of the way, which would be a very good litigation set. Right. So I would think that we would want to try to find ways to get this done as soon as possible, because it is imperative to CMB to do it, instead of arguing about semantics about, oh, well, does operation mean that we can't move dirt? Oh, well, of course it means, you know, that I think you could that you could make the improvements on there and continue on. And if you're going to start taking trash, you definitely need to do that now, because once you put the first load of trash on that landfill, ICI is going to say, hey, we didn't cause this problem, that was your problem. You know, you caused this, and this. Or you exasperated the damages there when you moved this, and this. that's why it's so important to get that study to see what the condition is right now.
Tom?
I think everybody knows that the administration was on board with the study. I mean, they actually offered a different resolution that kind of, at least in their opinion, put to rest some of the issues that they had. So there is a consensus of yes, they want this, as much as you all did. But I think one of the issues, because it was said here just a moment ago, or if they close, well, if everybody's on board that it's going to be open and that's the intention, then we want that. On the other hand, when we talk about comprehensive, and I'm not going to go into details here, but I was sent an email from a constituent, from an engineer of an engineer of an engineer, that said, oh, they would like to look at this and maybe bid on this. And then just from the technical things the man sent me, I could tell he had absolutely no idea of how sanitary landfills work. And by his intrusive kind of testing, he would do more harm to that landfill than just test it. So, we can say, well, maybe you should have done this, maybe you should have done this, and maybe you should have done this. I mean, I can go down and say, well, you should have went down 100 more feet. Or maybe you should have drilled a little bit deeper, or things like that. Just like medical doctors have specialties, lawyers have specialties, engineers have specialties, and we need to be careful of who we get with on some of these. I mean, we can go with a big company that does real well, and they may not do just as well as we think they are, and there may be problems down the line. I mean, we have issues with some of that.
Well, I mean, and the whole idea is that the resolution is a call for the council to choose
Certainly.
the contractor. It doesn't. I mean,
No, not at all. But
so I mean, the decision of who that contractor is going to be obviously is going to be CMB. It calls for CMB to choose it with the input.
does it not say interaction from this committee?
Well, absolutely, and well, it should.
Sure,
in my
certainly
opinion, I think everybody has expressed, those same wishes.
It's just the intent of the administration is that it be done concurrently and not hinder them. Because if it does, we're setting them up to fail with something they've already signed to.
Well, let me play devil's advocate then. If you do it, if you don't have this study done first, okay, like I said, a comment was made. Well, we're all on board that this is going to open, this is going to reopen. You know what? We have this study come out, and we see there's a heck of a lot of problems there. That it is hazardous to the health of the citizens of Adair, the Cherokee citizens of Adair County, and or state citizens of Adair County. If we come in and we uncover a problem, well then no, not everybody's going to be on board to reopen this thing. And and plus you have evidence that ICI or previous operators really screwed the pooch on this deal. Now, I understand but I also there is a compelling interest for CMB to start trying to recoup some of the disastrous effects of that ICI contract that we had. Trying to save money. But I'm saying that we need to at least get a benchmark on there before we start taking in a lot of trash, or at least build a whole separate cell and put our trash that we're accepting in that cell. And I don't know if that's your plans or not, but I mean that would be something.
If I can speak, my only concern with the process and the resolution is being able to do what the citizens of Adair County, from my perspective, from what I hear that they ask for, is when is the landfill going to open? And we have specified, at least Mr. Carson has specified, in at least a couple of different formats, that he intends to open it as quickly as possible, 3 to 4 months. This testing, I cannot be assured, based upon the resolution wording, will be done in 3 to 4 months. And I'm trying to do the testing and do that in the best way that we can do it, and also move forward with the landfill development.
Well, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I believe that that's the administration's intent too, is to definitely have that done. I mean, that was agreed upon, that a benchmark study would be done on this, and they believed it could be done concurrently with this as they moved along. And as long as it didn't hinder them, and they believed the language of this particular resolution did, but the intent was to definitely do that. They want that study done. That it just seems like good business. But then it also seems like they need to move on.
Janelle?
Well, as a counselor who actually swims in the water downstream, I'm really concerned about all of it, but we don't want to slow them up. We want the study to go ahead, but are you telling us that you already have a company picked out that you think can do this in a short amount of time, or?
We've received estimates which we based the budget that we proposed on, and they have given us an estimate of time which they think, and they have worked on a lot of landfills in the past. The size of cell that we are originally going to create in the first phase of construction, they think they can get done in 3 to 4 months. And that would get us open. And we can perform more construction in a safe way at the same time as taking trash.
Well, I don't see how I don't really understand it. I don't see how our resolution is going to hinder you from going on with getting that company. I mean,
it's just the language that is in that very last paragraph, I think, is the only thing anybody's hung up on, to be honest.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, in order to alleviate people's concerns, because I think we should be looking at ways to get the job done, not trying to look at ways to, oh, well, maybe that term slows us up. I think that's a bad way to try to interpret things. But would it behoove CMB, and if I talk to is Huffman your attorney, or does he work just for CMB?
Jim Carrington is.
Jim Carrington, okay. What if Jim Carrington and I came up with a concurrent legal opinion that that you could hang your hat on and continue work on? Well, I could get that done Monday. But at any rate, I mean, there are members of the council here in connection with this resolution, and that I would say we would want to look over your scope of work proposal. If we have any changes or additions of what to do in the scope of work, fine. Let's put them in there today. Take whatever the results of this meeting are. Back to your business, and then next week you give us information about this firm that you have looked at. Give the council time to do their due diligence to see and make sure that they are in fact a completely independent organization and are capable of doing the work. But let them have the opportunity to do this due diligence and also make any inquiries that the firm that they may suggest, because they might be able to come up with some good things.
And just so I may clarify, the firm that I was speaking of with regard to the 3 to 4 months is the actual construction firm. We haven't picked anybody for testing yet.
Oh, okay. Well, see, this resolution, deals with testing. Let's agree on a scope of work, and I would think that CMB's first and primary focus at this point is to try to find us a good environmental testing firm.
That is now my.
Well, I think they wanted to do
Yes.
that in conjunction with.
Yeah.
Joe, you got a...
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This 41408 resolution that was prepared, looks like authored by Melanie. The 1, 2, 3, 4, the fifth whereas down there. I could interpret that. My interpretation of that could be just as confusing as the last, furthermore be it resolved on the original one here. And I could say, well, according to what this says right here, it sounds like we need to do the study so that we can make good, what does it say there? To render decisions that would be in the best interest of the Cherokee people and their environment. I mean, I could look at that and say, well, that looks to me like that's kind of a hold-up too.
And I'm not here to be a drafting critique, that's
No,
for sure.
no.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you read that, you can kind of read that into that, because it's an independent study, needs to be done so we can make good decisions toward our people and the environment. It was never my intent to that the last part of this original, as far as I was concerned, was the acceptance of trash. That's all that dealt with to me. I mean, I didn't want to see us go run in there and throw a little bit of a liner down in between a couple of those already cells, you know, where we were looking yesterday or whatever. And like Mr. Bain said at one point in time, he said in 60 days we could be taking trash out here. We could have part of this, part of this covered. We wouldn't have the full cell developed, but we could actually be taking trash in about 60 days. That was quite a while back.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And I didn't want to see that start happening. You know what I mean? Right in the middle of all this ICI, where are they and what are they going to do and how's this going to work out? And that was part of the reason that particular wording I thought was put in, was because of didn't want to see a bunch of the roll-off trucks running down there dumping trash while all this is going on. You know, and that's why I said at its current level of operation. Necessarily it didn't have anything to do with moving a little dirt and working on the sides of the slopes and the berm and all of that. That's something that we've got to do all the time.
Tom, do you have a comment?
Just one that, regardless of what the fate of this resolution is, the intent here is that C&B is going to go ahead and do the study. I mean, and they definitely want your input and our input into that. So, regardless of what happens with that, the study's going to continue, will it not? So.
And Mr. Carroll, if I could follow up, Tom, we agreed, I think Dina and Todd was there, when we all agreed, sitting at the table there with Mr. Carson and the chief and different ones, that this study needed to be done even if we were going to close the landfill.
Certainly.
No, I agree.
I mean, that was something we all agreed to.
What we find a really big problem.
Right.
So now what do we got to do to proceed on?
What I would recommend is to review the scope of work in this RFP, and that you all have had now for a day or so, a couple of days maybe. And does it look comprehensive enough to this subcommittee? And if so, although we're a subcommittee and can't take no action, that we agree to take it to the rules committee that's going to occur next Thursday and say, look, we've reviewed this RFP. We think this is comprehensive, or we think it should, we should add, 1, 2, or 3 to it, and then have a council action from committee action from there. And then in the meantime, after we make that consideration, give us the. Well, I guess you haven't chose an environmental testing. Or have it one for suggestion?
No, the only thing that I suggested to do was pull some Department of Environmental Quality certified a list that they have on their website for Oklahoma, and then we could pull from that because they've been pre-approved by a different entity already.
Right. I mean, I would suggest calling Waste Management, who does their testing. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. I'm sure that there are a number of, even from the United States Department of Interior or Environmental Quality, State Environmental Quality, other companies that run landfills. That this is an ongoing process, and that we just need to pick someone out that that can do the work and has had a history with Cherokee Nation.
Jody, you got
So Todd, with the short and quick and dirty answer be, take the council out of it and don't come to me and Joe later wanting us to make any announcements that we agree with. I mean, that's always another flip side since he vetoed the resolution, right?
Well, I mean, I would be my recommendation that we follow through with the resolution that was passed. Okay. Now, just because he vetoes it or purports to veto it, because I don't think he has the legal ability to do it, just because he's going to send a veto message, doesn't necessarily mean that veto is going to be sustained. First of all, okay, the council has passed a resolution, and that resolution stands until otherwise notified by council action, either by override or sustaining that veto. So therefore, I would suggest that we continue on doing what we're doing here, and if that means, if you want some more time to look at this comprehensive scope or what, but you need as a council to do a subcommittee in accordance with that resolution to make suggestions to your full, and I would like to make a recommendation to the full Rules Committee this coming Thursday, because time is of the essence for all parties, not just CNDB, but the citizens of Adair County and Sequoia County and all Cherokee citizens. You know, that this environmental testing be done expeditiously.
Meredith?
From a technical standpoint and a legal standpoint, Chad vetoes. He has the support to veto it. I don't know if he does or not, but if he does, we come up with a different resolution that that we all can live with, council and administration. Have that ready to present, kind of like we did last time. Have that ready to present, and so we can get on down the road.
Right.
Is that a short way to do it?
Sure, yeah, you could come to your next council meeting. I mean, let's talk practicality. At your next council meeting, you're going to, under unfinished business, you're going to take a vote to either sustain or override the veto.
Correct.
If the veto sustained, then you move them in the agenda, put this other resolution, and go forward. But at any rate, both resolutions are going to call for an independent independent environmental study that's going to at least recommend council action in. So we might as well be going down that road anyway.
Can you propose an RFP that we've already worked on the back of your resolution for approval at the time that you present?
Well, sure. I mean, I think that's one of the reasons why we're here today, is that no matter what happens, we're going to have, we should have an RFP that the council has been involved in, either by requirement under this resolution or by suggestion under the chief's resolution. But at any rate, we're going down the same path, and whoever wins the resolution war wins it. But at any rate, we're going to need to have we should have a resolution that calls on an RFP for an independent and extensive, or you can use whatever term you want, comprehensive, extensive, reasonable, whatever, but a good independent study on that landfill, because that benefits all parties, in my opinion.
Yes, Meredith?
Semantically, Mr. Environment, how would you word that an environmental study be done? Comprehensive?
I think it
reasonable?
was suggested by the administration.
And you said environmental study.
Yeah, I believe it did. That an environmental study should be completed by an independent firm with high qualifications and without prior business relationships with the Cherokee Nation or its entities to study all aspects of the environmental impact of the Cherokee Nation landfill located in Adair County, Oklahoma.
Okay,
Does that not seem reasonable?
Yeah, you do all, so is all aspects in your determination, Todd, is that comprehensive?
I think when you say study all aspects and you're calling for an environmental study, you're talking about the same term in all actuality. You know.
Mr. Chairman, it could be just as involved or
I mean, I can let's go get Webster's dictionary and see what comprehensive says.
I got a deep well out on my place, and you say, how deep is it? And I'll tell you, and you say, that's not deep at all. I got one twice that deep. So,
well,
all aspects is, I mean, what's all aspects?
well,
Maybe it's an
Janelle,
standard.
you have the floor.
yeah.
My point is the administration's hang up on refusing to accept our resolution, the word comprehensive, is that the holdup? Who knows?
That wasn't on this particular issue, if I may speak. But I think when we look at all environmental impact, as Dina said, that seems more like a professional standard of things. I don't think you would, the term comprehensive to a layperson may well mean much, much more than the professional standard that someone would use for that.
I don't know.
Jody, you have the floor.
Here's my question. What was the hang-up? Comprehensive ain't a hang-up, so I don't even want to talk about that. What was the hang-up with administration? The last
Well, and I
paragraph.
can't speak for the chief's veto or anything like that, but I can tell you from CNB's aspect, as I know it, of course, Mr. Carson is not available right now to speak for us, but the last paragraph really was the problem for me. From a time frame standpoint, if someone who's doing a independent test wanted to delay, they could, you know, due to any reason.
Yeah.
And I think that from a time frame perspective, in saving the nation money and continuing to operate and develop, then that paragraph is the main problem.
Councilman Creighton, you're up.
And then I understand what you're saying about that paragraph. And again, if we look at it from what I was saying, what I thought it meant in my lay approach to it, it wouldn't have the same effect. I mean, if you look at it like that, would it?
I think that your intent doesn't deal with the construction, and it allows us to construct from what you've said to me.
Yeah, it was strictly the acceptance of trash.
Yeah, the acceptance of waste is another phase of concern, minimally, because we have construction to deal with first. But the Fayetteville waste that the nation is currently losing money on, CNB wants to be able to cut that loss and bring it to our facility as quickly as possible.
Can I have one more follow-up?
One more.
In that meeting we had over across the way the other day, we discussed just for a very brief moment the possibility of looking at the site up there at Tawnytown, as far as whether it might be for sale. Did anybody ever look at that? Just out of curiosity?
We are on video. I would not recommend talking about business purchases at this time.
Okay.
Let's leave that to business.
You have the floor.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, if the chief is willing, yield my time to him. I told them about your potential veto and your reasoning behind it, that you may want to expand upon it. I told them about the last paragraph, can't begin work until such and such time, and also how much it's costing.
Well, the two concerns I had, one is the idea that the council's not been involved in this, and I clearly recall a meeting that Joe and Jody and you were at, and we invited made every overture possible to get the council's participation. We asked for a list of vendors, asked for a list of expanding the scope of work. I thought we bent over backward to try to accomplish that. So I don't understand the idea that we need, are we talking about a fourth environmental assessment in addition to the two we've already done, and the one that the RFP we have now, that the council's going to have another one besides the one we discussed?
No. The council's never, in my opinion, contemplated their own independent environmental study. It is to, as the resolution that was passed puts forward, is that they will, that CNB will pick it, and that the council will be in with inclusion of the speaker in the committee. It's never been the intention for the council to have its own study out there. It's always be in conjunction with CNB's study.
Right here, well, I thought we've done that. Did we get the input of those councilmen that were most concerned about it?
Well, that's what we're trying to do right now. We just received a proposed RFP, so that, which is what the resolution called for, is for CMD to create the RFP, council to be involved in looking it over, and that's what I had suggested that they go ahead and do.
3 weeks ago, we physically handed an RFP, and we talked about the operative parts of it. Most of it was boilerplate, except the scope of work and the vendors. And I thought we had a good meeting and a consensus that, and you were there, that by such date, if any vendors wanted to be added to the bid list, we would do that by the council. And Jody actually talked about somebody at Northeastern that she would had some idea that might be interested in it. And then we actually there talked about expanding the RFP to doing some historical analysis, some comparative analysis and such. So I'm not sure what the issue now is, delaying it even further to expanding more participation by the council. If there's other folks that didn't have an opportunity to do that, I don't know who they are. I don't know if the speaker or anybody else is interested in reviewing another round of RFP.
Well, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, well, I guess we're just not on the same page as the timeline. It was my understanding that, now is the time for that participation. And actually, this meeting would be a perfect time for that participation. If there's any additions to that RFP, let's make them now. Let's put it to the council Thursday, or the committee Thursday. And there's not to say that we're not on the same page. And that's why I don't, the resolution that was passed, I don't think is any way an intent to slow down this process, but it's just to formalize the participation of the council.
Jody, you had one.
Joe, correct me if I'm wrong and help me out here. When we met out there with Dina the other day, we agreed on the scope of work, didn't we?
Yeah, and this was, go ahead.
Yeah, we were okay with the scope of work. The only thing that wasn't added is when we talked about the core drilling. And Dina even addressed that later when we put in the methane wells. I mean, when we looked at this, me and Joe felt like, Todd, that I don't know if that needs to be included in the wording somewhere, or if we just agree that we'll do it at a later date, and I will trust you and Brad to, I don't know what needs to be done with that. But I thought, Meredith, I really thought when I talked to you yesterday, me and Joe had agreed to this. Did we not, Joe? Once she added her and cleaned this up, the scope right here, what it was going to entail?
I didn't have any problem with that.
I had no problem with it.
Well, that's what we wanted to do to expedite it, so I think the resolution is unnecessary. The other thing is about the selection. I'm very sensitive that the selection is an administrative process instead of a legislative process. So the speaker, in all due respect to the speaker, I don't think that's your business. And that's why we wanted to ask you to give us every possible vendor that we could send the RFP to, get it out, get the responses, and we'd be glad to share with you, who responded and why we're doing what we're doing. So I thought that process was taken care of.
Joe, you had one.
Thank you, Mr. Well, Chief, I'm looking at a resolution that Melanie Knight put together on the 14th. It's supposed to be a cleaned up version of a rough draft that was prepared maybe the day before. And it's dealing with some of the same issues we're talking about here. And if our resolution is not necessary, I don't see this one being necessary either.
I concur. I agree. I thought we had it all worked out where we didn't have to go through resolutions, that we had a community of interest and we're all on the same page. The only thing that I think there was a controversy or question was when did the environmental report need to be completed before we start taking trash. And our concern is that we shouldn't delay that business decision based upon when the report's done, because we're going to, whatever the report found, we're going to fix it, whether we had the cell open or if we didn't have the cell open, if we were taking trash or not taking trash. It was just the reality of it. Whatever that third independent report said, we were going to fix one way or the other.
Jody, you had one.
Okay, so we've agreed on the scope. Help me out here, Meredith, because I don't know. We agreed on the scope. She agreed to the extra things that me and Joe asked of her, and I trust that you'll do that. Evidently, what's holding it up is the fact that whether they can take trash within 3 or 4 months while the study is still going on. Have you asked these people? I'm looking at this right now, okay? And I'm looking at it from my point of view of anything I ever dealt with Dr. Cherry and water and everything else, okay? This ain't going to take 4 months, folks. It ain't going to take 3. I've read it. It ain't going to take 2. That's why I'm trying to figure out the answer to this, because this is not going to go on to how long it takes to do a cell. I've read it. These are analytical tests.
So may I ask, why do we need a resolution at all?
Well, that's what we're trying to figure out.
Well, the reason that the whole resolution process was started was to ensure that this take place. I mean, we have, after hearing many tribal constituents come in and say about all these bad things of the overflow, of the leachate, the trash, and I think it was proper for the council to say, hey, look, we want environment, we want a cast done. And the way that the council expresses their will is by a resolution. That's why the resolution process started. And and I don't know if you were able to listen earlier on, but we're on the same page. Everybody's on the same page, and it really sounds like the completion of the council's involvement under this resolution could be completed as early as Thursday. But be that as it may, I do believe that in all due respect, that it would be important for the council to have a sense of comfort that this is an independent firm, and that's why the council chose to have not only the head of the executive branch, but also the head of the executive branch or the head of the legislative branch that is the representative, that represents constituents directly. I didn't say that right, but both heads of those two branches ensure that that's an independent company.
Well, I got a whole ton of problems, answers we could find problems for. And so if there's not a problem, we don't need to do all this stuff. But if there's not and that's why, when you very graciously tabled it a time or two, and the message was very clear to us. And so that's why we made, lots of, when you did your your resolution the first time, and you very graciously tabled it. We had Brad Carson and others come and visit and set up that meeting. That was our overture to try to resolve these concerns without, a legislative process. And I thought we had accomplished that. But I think we have. And so I don't think any of this is necessary. And if it's not necessary, we ought to just continue the way we're going. I've got a comfort level. I shared with each of you is that the overall, I have confidence in our EPC and the two engineering firms we've done before. But I recognize it'd be in everybody's benefit for y'all to have participated in picking a third party so there's comfort in the communities and comfort for me, comfort for the council. And so I endorse, and I think we all agreed that we endorse that process 100% from the beginning.
Yes, Janelle.
I still don't see your objection to us passing a resolution. We're not in conflict. It's more or less that we are supporting. We have to answer to our constituents. And since I said a while ago, you weren't in here, that I'm probably the only council member that swims downstream. And we're not in conflict with you. We don't want to close it down if it were being run right the way we see advertisements of landfills on television. It could be done correctly. I'm not against opening it back up. I just want it done right, and I don't see how that you're seeing us as combative or against you.
No, I'm not. I don't have any complaint with the council. Don't misunderstand me. When I look at this resolution, what it does two things that draws my attention. One is that the independent firm would be selected in part by the council. And I believe under our Constitution, that's not a role of the council. The council can pass a resolution, say we want this, or pass a law and say we want to, but the execution of that law is exclusively within the province of the executive. And it may be a small issue here, but that's the principle. The other one is the current level of operation gives me concern because how you read that may mean that we completely stop operations. And so if that's not the intent of the authors, the easy way for us to resolve this is that I veto it. And if I veto it, then you will have to come back and override my veto. And I really don't want to be in a fuss with the council over something that we agree on.
Well, I don't want to be in a fuss with you over it either, but the more I get involved in it, I'm worse off than Ned in the first primer. Now, if you've not been an old-time school teacher, you may not understand what that means.
Well, I don't. You'll have to translate for me.
Okay, well, I'm getting more and more confused because we, to me, are not trying to butt into administration when we're saying that we just wanted Meredith to be on there to kind of be included And it wasn't us, it was, she was kind of going to be our representative, was the way I understood it.
Well, here's the exact language. And if you were to say it differently, then I wouldn't have an objection. It says, selected jointly by C&B and the Speaker of the Council. So that's an
Well, maybe
executive
with her
function.
consultation.
Well, that'd be fantastic. That'd be fantastic.
Oh.
That's,
Sorry.
Yes.
I didn't mean to interrupt, but I did. Sorry. And this is, and we're spending a lot of time dealing with, the areas of disagreement on a central premise that about which we don't disagree. And I think, sometimes that is almost indicative of the governmental process. But however, and I can appreciate, your position on the separation of powers issue. But that aside, both resolutions say pretty much the same thing, and I don't see why we need to get into a veto war on an issue, on this issue, because I mean, obviously, as a council representative, I would like to see you not veto this message, and that we continue on. Like I said, the council involvement can be done as early as Thursday, if not sooner, and that everything, all the goals that the administration has expressed in the past and what the council has expressed in the past can be reached with no detriment whatsoever to CMB.
and actually, the council's participation, as you outlined, doesn't even need a resolution, because we've already made those overtures, and at any time, we'd love to take any more council participation.
And as you said before, the council acts as a body. This resolution is a formalization of what the council's activity has been in the past and will be in the future on this one issue. And 95% of it's already done. So it's a formalization on a process that was began because of constituent comments in this room, and that's how we started the resolution process.
Jody?
Okay. 2 points evidently. Is one has to do with Meredith being on here as jointly selected with C&D. How can we word that? And it's not to say I don't trust C&B or I don't trust the administration. I don't want you to think I'm saying that. But I do trust Meredith to represent anything that our constituents that are affected by it, their input. How can we word it where, because I feel comfortable if Meredith comes back and says, Jody, I feel comfortable, I know your constituents do. How can we word it where Meredith can be in there and it will be okay? That's the first question. The second question is...
If I could respond to the
Yeah,
first
go ahead.
question, your language in consultation would be perfect.
That'd just be there asking
Yes.
for the advisory to pass it.
Yes.
Do you feel comfortable with that, Meredith? Okay. Joe, now how do you feel about changing it to in consultation with the speaker? Versus selected in jointly or?
Well, I don't like it as well, but I mean, it's not like eating cold cereal for breakfast. I can get it eaten alive.
Okay. Well, don't give on that because I got to part.
Okay, go ahead.
The other one is about the trash acceptance before the study is done.
Let me get, can I play devil's advocate in this instance, okay? And I said this earlier, for the chief's benefit, all right, I'm ICI's attorney, all right? I won't make the exact same, but wouldn't it behoove CNB and the Cherokee Nation to have this, reasonable, inclusive, comprehensive environmental testing done prior to the acceptance of trash, so there is a clear and delineated benchmark between now and, so that we can demonstrate at, in ongoing and future litigation?
Well, the issue is I hope that what we're arguing about is moot, because within 3 or 4 months this should be done.
Right.
But as issue of principle. C&E cannot, or C&B cannot legitimately run a business plan on that contingency. And so they need the comfort that they can open the cell, start lining up haulers and such without anticipating, worrying about delays or debates or contingencies coming back to impede that business plan. And I think Deanna and everybody here wants to get this done as soon as possible. Do we have any idea in the RFP when it should be done?
I'm ready to post it as soon as it's approved.
But as soon as, do you have any idea of how long it would take to award the bid and for them to complete their work?
Normally, the bidding process takes about 2 weeks to get the bids back, and then you award, and they start within a week after that. So within a month's time, they should be able to start the testing.
And about how long would it take to finish the testing?
I've never dealt with the actual testing portion before. Tom, do you have
Testing
any
is
advice on
a
that?
couple of days. The problem is getting that lab analysis back and doing the workup on the analysis.
So rather than having to worry about the contingency issue here, what I might suggest as the way to reconcile it is put in a incentive clause in the RFP that we have a date that it be done by, and if there's a penalty if it goes beyond that date, and there's an incentive if it's done before that date, just like when we want construction done on time. And I'm sure the chairman's familiar with that kind of stuff. So that will help us ensure that we'll have a report in hand before actually trash is being delivered.
Todd, do you have a comment?
And this is just for anyone. Would it be possible to create a cell independent of the create a cell without disturbing what is out there right now, so we could open up a cell and start taking trash in that area, yet preserving the benchmark or the environmental testing of the condition right now? Because I would like to see that way that would take away a large part of the argument of ICI, saying that, well, you've messed up everything and we can't, we don't know what's going, we don't know what happened since you took over, etc. Is that a possibility?
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not the engineer. I don't know if it costs more to do that or costs less, or if it's doable.
But what you stated earlier is that, and it goes on in line with what Jody says, there's a really good opportunity. We could have this all done, and we're all happy anyway, and we still comply with everybody's wishes and incentives and with the resolution that was passed.
Joe?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Chief, what you were saying when you were talking about the time certain or the deadline or incentives and whatever, I mean, if I understood what was transpired, I would be for it. That way we get the study done before we ever had any trash coming in, other than what we were taking out, whatever it's supposed to.
So if there's a way we can come to that resolution so we don't have to proceed with these, if there's a way we can resolve that without having to deal with these resolutions, I'd like to do it. And so we could give you some language on incentives and penalties for a date certain, and I think that will certainly get us within the 3-month period. It'll give C&B the opportunity to legitimately plan for not only the cell construction, but arrange the haulers and the marketing. And I would certainly encourage C&B to give us a report back that if there's a site that we could use that's segregated from the current activity, would certainly be delighted to do that.
Jody, you have the floor.
No, go ahead.
Meredith?
Yeah, my concern in reading this and what she said is, I went to the EPC meeting and they told Tom, you will find these people, whomever it may be. You will find these people if this is such and such isn't done. So I'm glad to see you establish dates to get it done. And that looked good in the lawsuit too.
Yeah. I'm in litigation prevention mode.
Janelle?
Not being an attorney, I don't really understand all these points of view. But to me, I see it as we need to come together and agree, and I still think it would be beneficial, although you say you don't need a resolution, you don't want one, we're more or less butting in. To me, like when it gets into litigation, you'd say, we have the support of the council, we have a resolution. We're not trying to be argumentative, and
Well, let me
it's
ask,
more like a show of support.
well, let me ask you this. If we made those changes to this resolution, could we enact it next round?
As far as I'm concerned, we could. I'm not on a different page with you. I mean, I want to see it be opened up and us start making money and it done correctly, but I still want to see that resolution there. After all, we answer to the people who elected us, and I have all those people down there that said, what are you doing about that trash dump?
I do
I said,
too.
well, we passed a resolution of support to do this, this,
Okay.
and this. We're not wanting to be left out. We want to be included.
Well, could I ask the authors of the bill, is that something y'all would be agreeable to?
Well, I just now asked Joe, did my answer about exempting trash before the study get answered, because I was a little lost there. And this was a lot simpler when you and Joe was talking the other day. Nothing against the other three lawyers.
Why don't we,
Yes, Tom.
if we put in language is that in the resolution, that CMV will not accept trash prior to the date that you'll give us, which will be the incentive date in the RFP. Now, after that date, you can start accepting trash, but you're also going to be penalizing your contractor for not getting the job done.
Not that I see a problem with that.
Okay.
Okay. I think that, but it is important, what Ms. Fulbright brings forth is a very important part. I mean, this resolution is something that they do answer to their constituents, and it was the constituents that brought this issue forward, and it is formalizing the council's involvement, and I think it is important that the council had this. And I also think it's equally important in a litigation prevention mode that they not be able to say, well, you know, or the bad press that would result from the Cherokee Nation vetoing a resolution calling for a comprehensive environmental study. I think that makes a bad headline.
So that will change the last resolve clause.
Mr. Clinton, you have the floor.
And that's just what I was going to say. That takes the confusion or whatever out of that last
And
part of
then,
being resolved.
and then the other thing about,
George?
Like I said, Todd, I want it to be able, until you said that a while ago here in an open meeting, that one of these days, we may be on the stand, and they're going to be asking us, did you feel good about this study, or do you think more should have been done? I want to be able to say, yes, I felt good about the study. And I thought surely CNB or administration would want us to be able to say, yes, we felt like it was good. You know.
so, Mr. Chairman, the last issue is if we substitute in consultation by the speaker rather than joint, that would resolve our issues.
Reluctantly, I would.
So we're putting in consultation.
It's a good thing that you don't have a vote, Tom.
That's right, that's right. I'm just-
Nor do I.
They got to be there.
Okay, so we're changing that. What else are we changing that?
Well, do we have a plan of action that will work with everybody?
And I think that works well.
And Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Joe.
And I want it to be, who was it, Richard Nixon used to say, crystal clear? Somebody. I want it to be crystal clear to the people in Adair County that the consultation that's been provided through our council representative, that myself and Jody both were actively involved in visiting with her and talking with her, because it's our people over there. It's in our backyard, and the health and welfare of those people, to me, is on the front burner, and revenue is slightly to the side or maybe behind it. I mean, if we can make dollars and not harm our people, I'm all for it.
Yes, Todd.
Logistically, in order, like I said, in order to, Chief, when is your veto deadline?
Tuesday.
Tuesday. What I would recommend to the council to avoid the veto headline, and also to incorporate the formalization of your involvement, is that on Monday I get with Melanie Knight or Diane Hammond or anyone that you would suggest, get this language together, if we are in agreement in principle to the language, that the chief not veto this resolution, but at the next joint council, at the next council meeting, that you rescind the resolution that you passed and substitute it with the one that we will have created. Would that be?
It's agreeable to me.
Huh?
Who rescinds
The
it?
council rescinds the resolution at your next meeting. Okay? Well,
Who?
The
Me and Joe? For the
No,
council?
no, the council itself, the council, it'd have to take council action to rescind it because the council all voted for it. You just put it on, as an agenda item.
Who's making the motion, is what I'm saying?
I don't know, so anyone can.
Okay.
And then on that same agenda, have the passage of the resolution that we come forward with.
Yes.
Mr. Scribes, do you have anything to add, or?
No, I don't think I do. I think that we have resolved everything.
Mr. Elkins?
No, sir.
Feel safe with everything? Feel good? Mr. Chief?
I want some birthday cake.
That's Meredith.
Yeah, you gotta ask her.
Is it your birthday? Oh, happy birthday.
Working on at 5:30 on a Friday.
Do we have any announcements, please? Any announcements? I hear a motion to adjourn.
I made me adjourn.
Hear a second? All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you all.
Have a good weekend.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Bye, Tom.
That worked out.